I see a lot of businesses just blasting out SMSs, blasting them out all the time. Certain businesses I'm subscribed to, it's like 3 or 4 a week. It's like, there's no way these people are profitable. I know that they're wasting a bunch of money. So in this video today, we're going to talk about SMS marketing. Is it worth it? It is more expensive than email. Emails are like, not even 1 pence or 1 cent per email, but SMS, the price really goes up. Depending on what country you're in, it could cost about 4 cents, 5 cents per send. It could cost double that. If you're in the US, it costs way less than that. So really, you just got to look about where your customers are and then look at the credit system and then work out how much it's going to be. But we'll get into that later on in the video. First, we're going to go through how to gather SMS subscribers on your usual pop-up, how to convert email-only subscribers to become SMS subscribers. We'll take a quick look at attribution because you may want to change that a little bit. I think Klaviyo sets it a little bit too strict. And then we'll look at the costs and how to ensure that you are sending SMS profitably. And then we'll look at when to send SMS campaigns, what type of campaigns, and then finally, where to put SMS in the flows and how to ensure you're sending it to only people who should be receiving it and not just blasting it out. So first and foremost, let's get going. Let's take a look how to integrate SMS into your pop-up. Now, I'm not going to go through the steps on how to set up SMS. That's pretty straightforward. You just go through the Klaviyo steps. But when we go to the pop-up, let's have a look to see how to integrate it. So here we are. I'm just looking at a pop-up, like a template from Klaviyo. So imagine you've got this, you've got your pop-up going, you're collecting emails. So this is a good one. This is a micro commitment pop-up. And as it stands, you've only got SMS set up. So what do? All you have to do is click this plus button here. So plus step, and then you just choose this mobile opt-in. So you can see here that now Klaviyo does have WhatsApp marketing. I'll get into that later, but I'm just going to talk about the cost of it because essentially WhatsApp marketing is pretty much the same as SMS, where you put it, what you send, but unfortunately it is a lot more expensive. It actually works out to be about 10 cents per send. So that's just something to consider. But basically all the other considerations on how to check if it's profitable, where to put it in your flows, what campaigns to send, they're all the same. So anyway, let's just select that. And then just say, yeah, we're collecting text messages, and then add that in, and then what list you're going to send it to. So let's just say SMS subscribers. Now, again, you've got to make that list beforehand to make sure that you're putting them in the right list. I definitely would suggest creating a separate SMS list. It just keeps it clean that way. So here we go, add step. So it's creating the step. There we go. So whatever, this pop-up is a little bit of a mess. You'd have to move things around. So personally, I like to put the consent down at the bottom. People aren't going to read it. It's just one of those things you have to have there. I imagine having these pineapples in the way is not good. I think that you'd probably have to have that visible. So put some padding on that, whatever. That's just this pop-up. So there you go. Phone number in, there it is. I'm not going to get into the design of the pop-up. We're just talking about technicalities here. And then sign up. Okay, where are they going to go when somebody clicks this into SMS subscribers? So there you go. That's set up there. And then what happens when they do sign up? They go to the next step, which in this case, it will be the success step. So in this case, in this pop-up, we've now got 4 steps. So there's the initial quiz, which is the one that I like to do. This is what I use with all my clients, the quiz format. You got your email opt-in, and then you got your SMS. But how do you get people to opt into SMS? How do you entice them to want to opt into SMS? So you've got a few different things you can do. You could just say an extra discount. You could say, 10% for email, 15% for SMS. That works really, really good. Now, if you've got the margin for it, I would highly recommend offering a bigger coupon to people who want to subscribe to SMS. It really, really works well. But if you don't want to do that, that's fine. There's plenty of other options. You could say that you've got exclusive SMS only deals. So things that are only going to be included in SMS. You can make it mandatory. In order to get the email code, you also have to sign up to SMS. So that does work well as well, but the total email subscribers may go down. So you may normally be collecting a bunch of emails, but then and then a few SMS, but as soon as you make SMS mandatory to get the actual, any coupon at all, it kind of just evens out and goes like that. Email comes down, but SMS does go up. And then finally, there's another one I like to do. You could just say, get text reminders when your code is going to expire. So again, this one's not mandatory, but you could say, no, I'll remind you, the day before that your code expired, something like that. There's a bunch of other stuff you could do as well, PDFs or guides or whatever else. Just get creative. But for me, those are the 4 main ones. All right, so after you've chosen your offer, you might want to just put it in there. So join the, whatever, let's say SMS club. And then let's just say we went with the extra discount. So get an extra 15% off your entire order. You might want to just say get 15% off if it's not going to be stacked on top of the email code as well. Probably just go with that. Get 15% off your entire order. And then when you subscribe to SMS. Whoops. So simple as that. Of course, you could play around with the wording. You can get more creative. Another thing that I like to put in is just say like, we rarely send SMS messages. Unsubscribe anytime. I mean, that's just helps push people over the edge, you know, because people do get worried. Oh, I don't want to get bombarded. I don't want to get messages all the time. But, you know, if you say something like that, they're like, yeah, all right, then let me just get an extra code or whatever it is. So that helps just push people over the edge to sign up. Okay, what we're going to look at now is something a little bit different. And actually, I've not seen a lot of people do this. To be honest, I've seen nobody do this. I mean, I feel like I invented it, but I'm sure some other people are doing it anyway. And that is to convert email-only subscribers to SMS. Right, so you've got your pop-up for your email and maybe your SMS going at the same time. You know that you've got that 4-step pop-up. But imagine a bunch of people only subscribe to email, and you've got a large list of email subscribers that are not on your SMS list. So what you could do then is have a pop-up fire only to people who are subscribed to email but not to SMS. So the first step to do is actually make a segment. So within Klaviyo, they do have this option to say to send to only email subscribers, but I think that doesn't work out. I'll show you that in a little bit. And I think this is how you have to set it up to really, really ensure that the people who see this pop up are not subscribed to SMS, but are subscribed to email. So subscribe to email, but not SMS. That's just what I called it. And then here are the parameters. So if someone can or cannot receive email marketing, yep, that's fine. And then and then what someone has done or not done, and it's subscribed to SMS marketing 0 times over all time. So for me, that is really, really sure. Okay, we're definitely going to get people who are subscribed to email, but not SMS. So that's the segment I've built. And then just create a list as well on the side, just for, to gather the SMS subscribers. So I made this somewhere else. Where did it go? So yeah, here. Then you have to make a list for the people to go into. So convert email subscribers to SMS. That's just what I called it. So that's your list. So don't get confused. They're not going to go into the segment when they subscribe. The segment is to target the people, and the list is to gather the SMS numbers. So here we go. Let's just create this. So let's just call it SMS. No, let's call it convert email to SMS subscriber pop up. Choose a list. Okay, there it is. Convert email subscribers to SMS. Create form. All right, so this is an email one. It doesn't really matter. But let's just put in the text messaging bit. Right, and this is going into that list again. Don't know why I have to select it again. Okay, and I'll just delete this. Delete that there. Okay, and then, so again, I'm not going to look at this. I'm not going to go through like how to design it. All we're going to look at here is the targeting option. So you just go over here to targeting and behavior, and then show form. I would say probably put a delay on this. So based on rules, and then after time delay, let's say 15 seconds. Obviously split test this. Remember, these people are probably already customers, or at least they're already email subscribers. It'll show up after 15 seconds. And then you go over to the targeting, right? So this is where you use that segment. So really, here's this option. It says show to email subscribers only. But that makes me worry, because it's like, all right, what if someone is an email subscriber, but they're also an SMS? It doesn't exactly say if that works, and I've never tested it. I've not bothered to, because I don't want to go through all that, because I know my system works perfectly. So just select show to specific profiles in a list or segment, and then include certain list and segment. Click on that, and then find that segment. So it was actually, I've forgotten the name of it now. It's not SMS subscribers. This is the list we made. There it is. Subscribe to email and not SMS. Probably could be good to put segment in that title because you might get confused. But anyway, so that was the name of the segment. So I just click on that and boom, that's it really. And then I go in and I make the pop-up and whatever. But that will only show to people who qualify in that list. Subscribe to email, but not SMS. So I did set this up before. And, you know, if you've got extra coupons you want to give out, great. I actually set this up for a big retail store, which has got like evergreen coupons. So like buy 2, get 10% off, buy 3, get 15% off. Maybe think about putting in coupons that you've always got going on your site. You know, you don't want to give away too much, but if they're already active on your site, you know, you could use this as the offer. So obviously design it up there. You'd say get some exclusive SMS deals, or, you know, get some evergreen discounts, whatever it may be. And you just create it there and then, you know, publish it. So then after that, you need to create your SMS welcome series. So then you go to flows, create flow. And in this case, we're just going to do build your own because this is using that list. So build your own and then SMS welcome series from email subscribers. Call it whatever you want, but that seems pretty clear to me. Create flow. And then all triggers and then add it to segment. And then here it is, subscribe to email, but not SMS. That's the segment that we set up. So whenever, sorry, let's go back. It's not the segment, excuse me. It's added to list. And then it's convert email subscribers to SMS list, not a segment. Because otherwise you'd be targeting the people who should be targeted on the pop-up. That would not work. So confirm and save. And then all you do is just plop it in, put in your SMS. So whatever coupon goes in there and, you know, whatever you want to say, thanks for subscribing, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, you just edit it as you see fit. So I'm just going to jump in here now just to talk about the builder of the SMS. So obviously it's just pure text. You'll see there that you've got a name. So this is just a dummy account and it's just got this random name. So these two things are always in there. And then you just start typing out your message. Hi. And then it's got all the usual stuff. So personalization, first name, put it like that. I think capital and then lowercase. That makes sure it's the first letter is capitalized, then the rest is lowercase. Hi, name, blah, blah, blah. Here is your exclusive SMS code. And then plop in the code, whatever it is. You know, you just go to coupons. I haven't made any here, but, you know, you'd select it, put it in there. But anyway, the only reason I'm typing this out is to let you see this here. So you've got 160 characters, right? And it seems decent, but it's not. It's really not a lot. Like, if you go over 160 characters, then all of a sudden you will have 2 messages, right? So let's just, I don't know, I'll just duplicate this again until we get over. Okay, there you go. So there you go. I've gone over the 160 allowed, and it says 2 SMS there. So 10 credits. So this is for the UK. Now I'll go over the credit system in a little bit, but basically as soon as you go over that limit, then it's going to be counted as 2. So basically the costs are doubled. So really for cost management, try to keep it in 1. If you really, really can't, and you know, you think your margins will be okay, let it be 2. But I always try and keep it under 1. All right. So since we're talking about the billing, let's just take a look. So 2 places to look first. So this is the credits per country. So go right to the top. If you're in the United States, happy days. You're doing great because 1 SMS equals 1 credit, right? You can send a bunch. So really, if you're in the United States, you don't really have to think about the cost nearly as much. I mean, that costs like, I think it's about 1.5 cents per SMS. But when you go into the other countries, you know, all of Europe and then, you know, Asia as well, and, you know, South Pacific, all that, Asia Pacific, then you need to start to look at the credits here. So UK, as I mentioned before, is 5 credits per SMS. Ireland is 9. And then France 7, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go down, but you can just check where you're sending to and check how much it costs. Germany 12. I mean, bloody hell, that's getting quite a lot. In order to work out the cost, all you have to do is look at your flows or look at your campaigns and see how many was delivered and then multiply it by your country cost. Or if you've got multiple, you may have to download a list and work it out in an Excel. But let's just imagine, for argument's sake, that this was only going to the UK, right? So I know that that's 5 credits per SMS. So imagine after a few months, I'd sent 500 messages here. So it said delivered 500. So what would that be? Times by 5, that's 2,500. So if we go over to the cost here, In order to send 2,500, it would cost $25. So if I look at the performance of this message and imagine it's made $100, with all the orders that have been made, obviously I have to work out the gross margin of the product. So imagine, I had a 50% margin and I made $100. So that would mean that it's $50 profit, and it only cost me $25 in total. So that's a $25 profit. Now that's a super, super simple example, but you get what I mean. You've got to go into here, work out how much each message has cost you, work out what your gross profit is, minus the cost of the SMS, and that's how you work out if a message is profitable. So obviously this is a welcome flow for SMS. I would imagine this would be profitable. You really, really should be profitable on this first message. But imagine you've got subsequent SMS messages in this flow. Maybe you've got 5. Well, the first 3 may be profitable, but then the last 2, that could get in dodgy territory. You may be sending to all the people again and again. It could be 500 messages, cost 25, but actually that one made 0 sales. So personally, in that case, what I do is I just turn that off. I just set it back to draft and I just don't send it. There's no point sending a message, especially with SMS, that is not profitable. So I just turn it off. That's all I do. Same thing with the campaigns, right? So if you're sending to a list of, say, 2,000 SMS subscribers, in the UK, that would be 10,000 credits. And then, of course, you just go over here. This is a rough way of doing it, by the way. I know it gets a little bit cheaper the more you send, but anyway, it doesn't get that much cheaper. So I just do it like this anyway. So one campaign, imagine one campaign made $300, but with 2,000 people times 5, 10,000 credits. So I know the cost is $90, but the campaign made $300. I've got a gross margin of 50%. So that's $150 minus the 90. So that's a $60 profit. That's okay. Fine. Again, very simple example, but this is how you can work out if you are being profitable with your SMS. Very, very crucial here, because I see a lot of businesses just blasting out SMSs, blasting them out all the time. Certain businesses I'm subscribed to, it's like 3 or 4 a week. It's like, there's no way these people are profitable. I know that they're wasting a bunch of money. So just be careful with it. All right, so let's just take a look at attribution quickly. So a little bit boring, but I do think it should be changed on Klaviyo. I think they're a little bit too strict with it, which is quite strange, because normally every ad platform or whatever, they want to claim all the sales. But personally, I think they're too strict with SMS. So you just go down to your name down here, click on that, click on settings, and then go to attribution. And then you've got the SMS there, and you can see the attribution here. So what this is set up as is that if anybody clicked an SMS, it waits 1 day. And within that day, if anybody who clicked it has made a purchase, then Klaviyo attributes a sale to that SMS message. Now, I think that's a little bit too strict. Someone may click on it, look at it, and then, come back to it, a day later, or maybe they come back to it like, 12 hours later, add to cart, and then they get put in the browse abandoned flow or whatever, the add to cart flow, so I do think it's a little bit strict. So I just increase that to, 2 days. And I think that's fine. Just give people a little bit of wiggle room. And then that way you can know if your SMS is performing, a little bit better than just 1 day. You can see that you are driving traffic and people are eventually buying after after clicking on the SMS. Now, I would never choose this here, right? Because I don't even know why they have it. But basically what that means is, as soon as the SMS is delivered, imagine we send it to 2,000 people and it's delivered. Imagine nobody opens it at all. And then, I don't know, 5 of those people go to make a purchase that day. Then the attribution the revenue is attributed to that SMS, even though they might not have opened or even looked at the SMS. So that's a real weird one. And I just would never do that. So leave that one. All right. So SMS campaigns, right? Again, they are costly. And personally, I would only send 1 or 2 campaigns a month, and only if it's really, really juicy. Like if you got a really big discount or a big sale going, or a new product has been launched, I don't know, something really, really exciting. Start out with those first, right? Something really exciting. See how well it performs. If it performs really, really well, then you might want to think about sending a few more SMS, as long as it's profitable. But if it doesn't perform that great, and quite often they don't, even a really big deal, like a great promotion, you send it by SMS, often it doesn't do that good, but it really does depend on your audience. So you've got to test it yourself. If you've got a younger crowd, they might resonate more with SMS. If you've got an older crowd or middle-aged crowd, they're probably going to resonate more with email, but you've got to test it, right? So something really juicy in the beginning. If it does really great, maybe try a few extras. So that's the type of things that you could send, new things, new product launches, promotions, hyping up sales, maybe, I don't know. But I keep it quite spare. I don't send that many SMSs. Okay, now, as I said, let's have a look at the flows. And there's something I like to do with the flows with SMS. And for one reason, that's to keep the costs down. And the other reason, it's also to not annoy people. So when you put SMS in flows, personally, I think the best thing to do is to only send it to people who haven't opened an email within that flow, right? It's pretty easy to set up. I'll just jump into a dummy flow here. So basically, this is an abandoned cart flow. Let's just do it on one side. So all you have to do, so imagine, they add to cart, they don't buy, 4 hours later, they get the first email. But then imagine they don't open that email. Well, at that point, we want to send to anyone who is subscribed to SMS. So let's do a conditional split. And then you go over here. And then if someone can or cannot receive marketing, and then can receive, and then just change it to SMS marketing. Save that. And then you can see it's the yes path there. So anyone who cannot receive SMS marketing, they'll just continue down the normal no path. But in this case, the ones who are yes, we'll send them an SMS. So I'll put a little delay on that as well. So let's have a think. We'll put that at probably 2 hours. So 2 hours. So that's just to give people a little bit extra chance to open up the previous email. And then I'm going to add another conditional split. So basically, we want it to be in the no path. And this conditional split says what someone has or has not done. And then it is opened email at least once since starting this flow. So there you go. Now, there is a chance that they get a campaign and they open it, but, it's got to be quite rare to happen so quickly. And I'm happy with that filter. So has opened email at least once since starting this flow. If the answer is no, then they get the SMS. Okay, because that ensures that you're not bothering people who have already opened email and, they just don't want a product, or they're still thinking about it, or maybe they do add to cart, or, get to the checkout and they're just still thinking about it. You don't want to annoy people with an additional SMS. And then also it keeps your costs down as well. So then, of course, you'd set it up and say, hey, I noticed you've abandoned your cart, come back, here's a coupon, whatever it is. Okay, so now we've got to connect the rest of the flow. So basically, I was actually trying to do this before. You used to be able to just drag this bit over there and put them back in the flow. Not sure why. So basically what we're going to have to do is duplicate. And then drag this and put it there. Duplicate the 20 hours again. So you just basically duplicate the whole branch. Duplicate this. Put it over there. And then finally duplicate that. Clone, as they call it. And then put it over there. Okay, so you've basically created a whole new branch. And then again, so with this one here, they have opened an email. We basically want them to skip the SMS and we'll just plop them back in there. So that's all it is. So instead of, receiving the SMS, they just go straight down to the next email. So that's it. That's how you put SMS into flows. You can put it in all your flows like that. If you want them to receive it anyway, you don't have to do that conditional logic. Has opened email. You can get rid of that and just only have they are subscribed to SMS. But again, I personally like to do this. I don't like to bother people. I don't like the cost to go through the roof with all the different SMS. So I like to only send it to people who haven't opened an email. Okay, so if you like this video and you want to learn more, I've got a full mini course on how to set up SMS. Check the link in the description down below. I'll also put my other mini course in there, which you can get on how to set up the 5 core flows that every single e-commerce store needs to have in order to increase their conversion rate, lower their cost of acquisition, and increase your sales of first-time customers. Also, if you want to work with me at all, I'll leave my Calendly link down below, and I'd love to hear from you. But apart from that, I'll see you in the next one.